government for bringing this motion and for putting the spotlight on public transport, and also that the government is not opposing it. And Minister, I welcome your speech, and I know your heart and soul is behind rail. I might get a chance to come back to that. And you acknowledge on page 2 that public transport is just not about moving people from A to B. It's a vital service that connects individuals to work, education, healthcare and their communities. I think you're right, but I think that has been utterly not recognised by any government, and they looked on transport as A to B, with a whole lobby group behind car transport, building more roads and getting more cars. And I feel we're falling into the same trap, I'm afraid, in relation to electric vehicles. And I would really love to see a full examination of electric vehicles from start to finish in terms of where their ingredients and components come from, but that's for another day. I note the 8 commitments and I welcome them, and I see that you're going to have a strategy later this year. You might tell us when that strategy is going to be published, and will that include the Western Rail Corridor as one of the targets in it? I hope it does. I know the statements unfortunately are gone off the agenda. Hopefully they'll be back next week where we can go more into that. In relation to the press release from the Climate Council, and I think it's again an absolute call to action. And this is 5 years after we declared a climate and a biodiversity emergency in May 2019. And we have the Climate Council telling us it is increasingly unlikely that the transport sectoral emission ceiling will be achieved. And then they go on to tell us, with journeys to education making up 1 in 5, and I see we have students up here today, journeys to education making up 1 in 5 of all journeys, the Council urges an expansion of the school transport system. And it goes on to tell us only 18% of students, that's 172,000 out of almost a million, out of 945,000 primary and secondary, avail of the school transport system. Minister, if you were to make any practical difference at all, it would be to expand the school transport. It's absolutely a no-brainer that it's limited. And when we have cars on the road, every size, bringing children to school because they have no choice because of the failure to expand the school transport system. And it's something I and my colleagues have asked forever. The council goes on, the advisory council goes on to talk about what we need to do and the urgency of it. And we're utterly ignoring it. We're going to miss our emissions. So if we go back to Galway City, and there's a golden opportunity for many years, a thriving city, a beautiful city. Tá mé anbhródú las cahar gáithangach, cahar harsach na Gaeltachtas mó sa tír, agus tá muid sásta I dranglam tráchta, tá sagad é sin, trácht, cuile lá, gach lá. We're looking at a city in Galway that should be taken as a pilot city, a green, lean city, and build on the industry that's there and on the natural beauty and on the talent of its people. And instead of that, we're letting them sit in traffic every day for hours on end, and we hear it on the radio. We have no park and ride. It has never been rolled out. It's 20 years since I had the privilege of being mayor, and the council agreed with me to put the objective of park and ride in the city development Galway, became law on the 1st of February 2005, over 20 years ago, never been rolled out. We're now pathetically looking at a 200, which is welcome. I say pathetic in the scheme of what's needed. And we have the 24,000 people many years ago signed a petition begging the government to look at a feasibility study for light rail. We got the feasibility study, said it was possible, and I know you're interested, Minister, again in that. It's one, again, with park and ride, one of the components of the solution to the traffic problems in a way that's compliant with our obligations, in a way that's compliant with the necessity for transformative action in view of the climate emergency, in view of what we promised after COVID. So every policy that I read from the government talks about the necessity for public transport, for social cohesion and for integration, but we're utterly failing to deliver. And we're dividing people against each other, people in favour of roads, when this is absolutely unnecessary. We need a comprehensive, inclusive public transport that's free. We're working towards that, and we've reduced, and I thank the Green Party for their influence on that. However, it is much cheaper to get a public transport system that's free and have everybody on board. And we talk about having a public awareness to encourage people. People want to use public transport. They are dying to get out of the cars, but they have absolutely no choice.